As a gig worker, you are considered a self-employed worker, which means that you have to take care of all of your taxes yourself. Let's start this video with a disclaimer that I'm not a CPA or a CFA or any sort of legal tax advice person, so this isn't going to be tax advice. However, this video is more to prepare you for the 2023 tax season and give you information to help you be better prepared for the 2024 tax season. As a self-employed worker, you're supposed to pay estimated quarterly taxes. Since it's too late to do this for 2022, we'll instead focus on giving you a rough idea of what your taxes will be like when you file this year. And then I'll also give you some information on how to file your estimated quarterly taxes for all of 2023, so that way you're good for the tax year 2024. I'd like to stress that you should go to a tax professional to get your taxes done. I would also recommend to ask the person if they're skilled in or if they have experience with 1099 taxes, since these are generally more complicated than standard W-2 or W-4 taxes. And you want to make sure that you can pay for a tax professional that's going to work in your best interest and know the laws and get you the highest amount of deductions possible, so you don't have to pay a ton in taxes. Now, you don't have to get a tax professional, but since 1099 taxes are more complicated than standard taxes, normal free software might not give you the best tax return, and you're gonna not get the most amount of deductions that you could possibly get. So usually when you work a regular W-2 job, your employer will pay part of your taxes and you'll pay the other part of your taxes. Let's first start with the self-employment tax, and then get into federal income tax, and then lastly get into state tax. From what I can tell, the self-employment tax is similar to federal income tax. However, you first need to figure out what your net earnings were to be able to calculate your self-employment tax. You can calculate your net earnings by deducting your business expenses from the business income that you've made. Then, once you determine your net earnings, multiply your net earnings by 15.3% to get your self-employment tax. I'm just going to keep this simple for the sake of this video and say that I had no business expenses, when in reality that wouldn't occur because mileage and other things like that would count as deductions. But just to keep this simple, let's not talk about those right now. That would mean that the self-employment tax would be similar to the federal income tax of 15.3%. So let's say that I made $85,000 and I had no business expenses. That would mean that I would owe $13,005 in self-employment taxes. One thing to note is that this is the tax that will be reduced, but if you decide to track your miles and you choose to deduct them from your taxes. Or you can choose to keep your gas receipts and deduct those, but you cannot do both gas and mileage. You can only choose one of them, and usually mileage turns out to be better. Again, this is not tax advice. I just want to make that abundantly clear throughout this video so that way I don't get sued or get sued by the FTC or anything like that. Now, let's get into federal income tax. A good example of federal income tax would be if you were working a regular W-2 job. 15.3% of an employee's taxes need to be paid out to both Social Security and Medicare. According to TurboTax, 6.2% is paid for Social Security by both the employee and the employer, totaling up to 12.4% of that 15.3%. The other 2.9% is split 1.45% and 1.45% by employee and employer to pay for Medicare. So when you work for yourself, such as doing gig work, you're responsible to pay all 15.3% rather than the 7.65% that you would pay in a regular W-2 job. So let's again say that I made $85,000 this year as a self-employed worker. This would mean that I owe the IRS $85,000 times 15.3%, or also $13,005 for the federal income tax. Now let's get into state taxes. This is where it gets a little bit challenging because state taxes are generally based on tax brackets if you do have to pay state tax. So let's say, for example, again, that I made $85,000 this year. This isn't actually how much I made. I made far less than this, but it's a good way to show how tax brackets work. I would choose filing single. Again, this is just hypothetical, but this would put me in a tax bracket that looks like this. I would pay 4% on the first $8,500 that I made, which equates $340 in taxes. Then I would pay 4.5% on the next $3,199 I made, which is $145.55 in tax. And my total income is now at $11,700, so we still got a bit to go. Then I would pay 5.25% on the next $2,199 that I made, which totals $129.49. So now my total income is at $13,900. Then I would pay 5.85% on the next $66,749 that I made, which totals $3,904.82, which brings my total income now to $80,650. And then finally, I would pay 6.25% on that last $4,350 that I earned, which comes to $271.88, and that brings my total income to $85,000. This tax table I got from NerdWallet. I'll link it down in the description below if you'd like to see it. And this is based off of New York State tax. Hey guys, future editing Justin here. I just wanted to jump in because right here with the tax brackets, I did miss a little bit of tax here, about $6,000. So for the 4.5%, there was actually a $340 plus the 4.5%. And then for the next one, it was $484 plus 5.25%, and then $600 plus the 5.85% of the next amount. And then the largest thing that I missed was this $4,504 plus 6.25% of the additional amount. So I missed out on quite a bit of tax there, and I just felt like I needed to jump in and add that in. So if we added all of those state taxes together, I would owe New York State $4,791.74. So that means in total, with the self-employment tax, the federal income tax, and state tax, I would owe $30,801.74 in taxes for making that $85,000 through gig work. So because of the previously mentioned about $6,000 that was missing, this tax number is actually $36,729.74 I would have to pay for taxes as a gig worker. I decided to go through and test this out if I was a W-2 employee, and I was paid $85,000 a year, and I would have only paid $49 in extra taxes after having $8,500 in federal income taxes withheld from my paychecks, and $4,021 for state income tax withheld from my paychecks. All right, so with this $8,500 plus the $4,021 plus the $49 I would still owe for federal taxes, that would mean that I would have to pay $12,570. And then plus the state taxes, New York State tax would still be the same at $10,719.74. So in total, that would be $23,289.74 that I would have to pay if I was a normal W-2 employee. So if you were to compare that W-2 employee tax number compared to being a gig worker, you'll see that there's a $13,440 difference, which is really close to the $13,005 that you have to pay for self-employment tax. And I didn't take out any sort of deductions for my self-employment tax in the first example. So if you were to take out some deductions, let's take a look at what that's going to look like. And let's say I drove 45,000 miles over those 50 weeks that I worked in a year. I got this number because I usually drive 800 to 1,200 miles in a week. And that's by doing gig work about 8 hours a day and 5 days a week. So that would give me 45,000 miles driven. At the current IRS tax rate of, it's kind of complicated because the IRS changed for the last 6 months of 2022. The mileage tax deduction rate went to 62.5 cents per mile. This will just be based off of the standard 58.5 that it was before that change. So if I did take those 45,000 miles, that would give me $26,000 in deductions, effectively making my self-employed net income $53,400. So I would then only need to pay $8,170 in self-employment tax rather than $13,005. A savings of almost $5,000 just for doing the simple task of tracking my miles for tax purposes. Also, Since I didn't file any quarterly estimated taxes, there's most likely going to be late payment penalties, so this amount will be a little bit higher. Each month that the late payment penalty is applied, it's 0.5% of the tax owed after the due date, or up to 25% of the total taxes that were due. Once again, this is still just hypothetical. This really isn't tax advice or anything. I'm not telling you how to do your taxes. I just want to make sure that you guys have an idea of what to expect when you go to pay your taxes. So now let's go into what you're supposed to do to pay your quarterly estimated taxes so that you can do it this year in 2023 and the years beyond, and you won't need to pay a huge lump sum at the beginning of the next year when tax season comes around. And so you can also avoid any sort of late payment fees. This is essentially paying out your state and federal withholding taxes, like what would happen in a normal job. The easiest way that I've found to actually calculate the amount of quarterly taxes that you're going to owe is by using the Stride app to track all of your miles, and then at the end of the week, you just input how much money you actually earned through all of your gig apps, and the app will give you an estimated tax amount that you should set aside for your quarterly estimated taxes. In the app, you can also add in other things for deductions, such as part of your phone bill. If you purchased a phone specifically for gig app, then that's deductible. If you pay for delivery car insurance, not just your standard car insurance, that's deductible. If you buy hot or cold bags, those are deductible. Essentially, anything that's needed for the job and that other people in the same position as you use for their day-to-day activities. What I would do is use the Stride app and do this every single week, and then get a month or 2 months worth of estimations, and then multiply that out for the last month, and then pay that amount for the first quarter of the year. The next quarter, you can decide to use the same amount and pay that same amount if you would like, or you could recalculate the estimated taxes and pay out that amount. If you overpay in estimated taxes, you'll owe less in taxes at the end of the year or get a refund. But if you underpay, you will have to pay at the end of the year. I'll put 2 different IRS websites down below. One is about small business self-employed estimated taxes and how to pay those. The second is going to be how to manage your taxes for gig work. This should really help you be able to figure out how to do your estimated taxes this year, so that way you don't have to pay a huge lump sum come tax season 2024. So I hope that this clears some things up about taxes, and I hope that this makes taxes seem a little bit more understandable, since I think that they're unnecessarily complicated. Let me know down in the comments if this has helped you, or if you still have questions about taxes as a gig worker, and I can make some follow-up videos. See you guys in the next one. Bye.